there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I have a lot of fun crafts for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on some whimsical and fun placemat designs for your table decor. So let's get started with project number 1. First off, what I want to talk to you about is for your placemats, I'm going to be using this polyester batting. You can get it by the yard at Walmart. It's like $4.17. And it's just really thin batting, different than the cotton batting I normally work with. So it's a little bit stiffer for placemats. Okay, and a yard of it, the width of it is like 90 inches. So like with a yard, you're actually getting like around 3 yards, if you understand what I'm saying. Or you can use this heat and bond material. It's fusible interfacing. You can get that at Walmart as well. I got some at Dollar Tree. I have a picture in the upper left for you. It worked great. I used the heavy one for Dollar Tree. This is extra firm and it's just going to make a little bit stiffer of a placemat for you. Or if you don't want to use any, you don't have to. But I just wanted to share that with you right up front. Each of my designs will have a pattern for you. This first one actually comes with 5 pages. I've redone this one a little bit. And what you'll do is you'll cut each one out and a little bit of Bella there on the side. You're going to put them together and then you're going to tape it together at the dash lines, okay? And then I will have a pattern with the circle on it so you don't have to cut out an 8-inch circle for yourself. Because at first I was going to just have you cut it out for yourself, but I've made that pattern for you, okay? Now, so what you're going to need is 2 pieces for the flower design, 2 pieces of fabric. I got this fabric at Walmart by the yard, and then I'm using this quilted fabric from Joann's 8-inch circle. Now, wherever I sew, if you're a gluer, you glue. It's as simple as that. I'll still show you little bits here and now and then, but if where I sew, you glue. So I'm going to use batting. I cut out the flower in my polyester batting, but for the front I'm not going to use any batting because that quilted material is thick as on its own, okay? So what you're going to do is batting between your flower pieces and the circle on top. Now if you don't want to use batting and you go with the heat and bond, all right, what you do is you'll cut that out in the shape of the flower and you're just going to iron it onto the back piece, your back fabric of your placemat, and then you'll put the two together and you'll glue or sew or however you're going to do it. Okay, and then if you want, you could use heat and bond on the back of the circle as well. As I said, the heat and bond is just going to make it a little bit more stiffer, and the polyester batting will do the same, but a little bit more flexible, if that's understandable. And then if you don't want to do either of those in between your fabric, you just want fabric, then just use fabric. Not a big deal, okay? Now for this particular pattern, I'm going to show you a little bit different way to do it because normally I would just leave all the edges out, okay? So I'll explain that as we're going through it. But this one I'm going to hide all the seams. So the first thing I'm going to do, if you're a gluer, you're going to glue your circle onto the front piece of your flower fabric only, okay? Leave the back set aside as you saw me do. Of course, I'm coming here and I'm going to sew my circle onto the front of the flower. Now, as you see, I'm not trying to hide my cut areas of that circle. I'm leaving that out and open and exposed so you see the batting and everything, because originally I was going to do that with this flower, all my edges out, as I am going to do with all my other placemats today, so I didn't hide the seams on the circle, but you can totally just fold those in around the circle and hide your seams if you want, but for this one I didn't. Here's what it looks like all sewn. Okay, just like that. Okay, so now what we want to do is, since we're going to hide our seams on this one, so if you want to do this thing as I've been talking about through this whole project, what we need to do is, if you use polyester batting, whether you are a sewer or gluer, we need to make sure that this batting is secure to the back piece of our fabric. So we need to sew that on around the back, or of course if you're a gluer, you're going to glue that on around the back. Then once that's all secure, what we'll end up doing, and I'm just kind of giving you a sneak peek here, is then we'll put right sides together, our fabrics together. All right, and then we're going to sew around the edges all the way around, or of course glue around the edges, and then we'll leave one little spot open to where we can flip our fabric, okay? So I just kind of want to give you a heads up what we're doing. So I'm going to just kind of, in this next segment, I'm going to start pinning my batting to the back piece, and then off camera I'm going to sew it, and I do about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance for you sewers. Okay, gluers are just gluing this whole thing on. If you use the heat and bond interfacing, you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so here I am. I've got it about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I've got it sewn onto my back piece of fabric. You can see here on this side, probably a little better on the white. Now, as I talked earlier, we're going to put right sides together. So your pretty sides of your fabric together. Okay, match it up. All right, and then I'm going to go in about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to sew my flower together. Those of you gluers, obviously, now you're gluing your flower together, but leave about a little 3-inch opening, I guess, because we need to flip our flower back out, okay? So I know I said these are fun and whimsical, and they are very easy, but I just felt like for some reason on this first one to take just a little bit more different route. You know, for those of you who might be a little bit more experienced, you don't want your seams to be hanging out, kind of giving that farmhouse rustic look. You want them to be all hidden and nice and beautiful. And so I wanted to show my first placemat this way. The rest of them is going to be like super, super easy. Okay, once you have it sewn together, gluers, you don't have to worry about this as much because you're gluing right around the edge, but as sewers, we're sewing about a 1/4 inch in from the edge. So if you're a sewer, you want to go ahead and make slits around your petals and make a slit, you know, right up into that little corner between the petals so that now as we turn this right side out, we get a nice shape around those petals, okay? So just go ahead and get everything all turned out nice and pretty. I like to sometimes take a skewer and get it in there so I can get right up against that thread edge and get it all nice and out. Once you've got that all out, you want to close your edge either by hand sewing or gluing that open area, okay? And then the next thing I want to do is now I'm going to go about a 1/4 inch in, and I'm going to sew on the front side, our pretty side, all the way around to give us a nice top stitch border all the way around. That's just for us sewers, okay? So I'm going to do a little bit of that here. You can see here, well, you can't see it because I hit it. I've sewn my opening closed, so you don't see that. And then, like I said, I'm coming in about a 1/4 inch in, doing a nice little just straight stitch, a little top stitch all the way around. So it just gives us a nice little crisp edge around the flower, okay? And then once I finish this off, I'll kind of show you what that looks like. Here's how nice and crisp it looks. I like kind of that top stitch edge. It just gives it a nice crisp look front and back of our flower. But again, I just wanted to show you this on the first one. I'll give you final looks at the end of the video. But for now, that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 2. I think I forgot to say in the first project, there is a link to my blog in the description box, and it will have the pattern for each and every one of these placemats we're doing today. But none of these patterns are perfect, okay? They're just hand-drawn, so they're going to be fun and whimsical. So this pattern is our watermelon pattern. It comes at 4 pages, and you're going to print this out 3 times, okay? So, and then you're going to cut 3 separate patterns out of each one, of course. So let me kind of put this together first, sort of looking like a watermelon. It's like a half watermelon shape, like a watermelon slice, okay? So obviously, as with all the patterns, so for the very first pattern, you're going to put it all together, and then you're going to cut around the most outer edge all the way around, which is like number 1. Well, hold on for a minute as Bella comes, you know, because now I've laid down paper and she's got to lay right in the middle of it. So you're going to cut that whole outer, one moment, please. Let me spin her around so we can see this watermelon slice. She just cracks. How come it's like right when I start something, she's right in the middle of it? Let me spin her around. We'll try to get a look-see here. Okay, you're going to cut that whole outer edge, of course, taping it together at the dash lines. And then on your second copy, you're going to cut out the whole part that says number 2 all the way around, taping together at the dash lines. And in your third copy, you're going to cut it out on the number 3 line all the way around, taping together at the dash lines. Okay, so I hope that is understandable. And here, of course, is a cute look at Bella. I wasn't doing nothing. So cut around, outer edge, cut around number 2, cut around number 3, then you've got 3 patterns, and then of course you have a heart, you're going to cut that out as well. So for your watermelon, your main piece, you want 2 pieces of fabric, that's the whole watermelon slice cut out. Okay, and then for your next piece, this is the number 2 that you cut out, just 1 piece of fabric. This is your rind. You're going to match everything up at the top edge, okay? So now it's how you know it's all together straight, of course. And then for your number 3 fabric, this is the red part of your watermelon, of course. 1 piece, match it up at the top edge, and now we have our watermelon slice, so to speak. Okay, so 2 for the back, 1 for the rind, 1 for the center, and then I just cut out 3 of those hearts out of a black fabric to simulate seeds. I am again going to use polyester batting, but you could use the heat and bond. If you use the heat and bond, you want to place it between those 2 main layers of fabric on the bottom, all right? That's where I'm going to place my polyester batting here. And then you don't have to use any more heat and bond if you don't want, or polyester batting, but I want mine a little poofier, so I'm going to add one more piece right underneath that top layer of red fabric. Now this is, again, just your choice whether you want to do that or not. That's the only two places where you heat bond or polyester batting. If you're a gluer, you're just going to glue your hearts on here wherever you want them. I'm going to fold my fabric in half to kind of find my center for my bottom heart, and then come up about an inch or so from the edge. And then I will pin them on and find, my measurements for my other hearts. I think I came a couple inches down from the top, still about an inch away from the edge. And I'll go ahead and sew those on off camera. Okay? I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. Everything's pinned, and look, they're miraculously sewn, all 3 hearts. All right, now what we want to do is start putting all our 3 top layers together. Okay, so I'm pinning my red fabric to my rind. If you're a gluer, you're just going to basically glue all of these top 3 layers together. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue around the outer edge of the red, around the outer edge of the white onto that top layer of green. I'm going to stay away from sewing across that top edge. Okay, we're going to do that last. All right, so I hope that makes sense. But here I am just going around that top layer. It's going to go through all 3, of course, but that top layer of fabric, getting all of those sewn together. This is just, giving us some texture and stuff with our sewing part here. Right? And now I'm coming around on the rind part, or our second layer of fabric, and sewing just right around that rounded edge. And I've probably got about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right? And then once those are sewn, then we'll assemble the rest of our cute watermelon. Okay, so let's assemble. I've got my polyester batting in the center, or some of you that used heat and press or fusible interfacing, whatever you want to call it, matching up my edges. And then this is where we're going to sew all the way around, including that top edge. We didn't sew the top edge when we were sewing the other 2 first and second layers of fabric, because then at the end we're sewing across that top edge 3 times, and that's, kind of redundant. We don't need to do that. So, of course, we're sewing all the way around that outer edge of our green, and then we'll come across the top of all those layers of fabric and batting and everything, and have our cute watermelon all together. I think it turned out so fun in Farmhouse. You could pull on the edges, and fray your fabric if you want. What do you think? How do you think this one turned out? Let's move on to project number 3. I know it's the one you all been waiting for. So this one comes with 5 pieces. All right, and it's going to match our cute little chicken we did not that long ago. I'll have a link down below to a video if you missed it. So again, obviously, as with all the other patterns, you're going to print it out, cut around the outer edges, and tape it together along the dash lines. And then page number 5 has your accessory pieces. So for my chicken, I'm going to use 2 colors only. So for the main body, I've got 2 pieces of this quilt I bought off Amazon. It's like $29.99 for queen size. And then I'm using a red polka dot fabric. I cut 1 piece for the wing. You could cut 2 pieces for the wing. I'll tell you why in a minute. 2 pieces for the beak, and then 2 pieces for the crown. Thank you for whoever told me in my last chicken video that was a crown. If you want to use batting or your heat and press or fusible interfacing, I am using batting pretty much for every area. So I've got 1 piece cut for the main body in between the 2 main layers of fabric. 1 piece for the wing. Now here's where you could cut 2 if you want your wing double-sided. You can certainly cut 2 pieces of wing and 2 pieces of batting, 1 for each side. I'm cutting a piece for the beak, but you can see it's about a 1/2 inch shorter on that one edge. I'll show you why in a minute. And then I cut my 2 pieces of crown fabric and my interfacing. I'm going to cut this off. I'll show you here, just about a 1/2 inch off. And again, I'll show you why in a minute. Right? So you've got that nice edge there. So here's why we have that little bit of space. It's so we could take our crown and our beak and we can layer the fabric on each side of the main fabric of the chicken, all right? And that's why it would be kind of neat if you wanted a double-sided on your wing, but I chose not to. And the same thing with the beak. You've got that space between your batting pieces to allow everything to line up and be all level, okay? So if you're a gluer, basically you're just going to glue everything together. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and sew my heart to that first top layer of our chicken. This is the world's easiest chicken, and it's going to go so cute with your other chickens. If you have a cute little bowl of chickens on your table and you have like 4 chicken placemats to match. So I think this turned out cute. You can see I've already sewn it. It's ready to go. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all my batting and everything together, and I'm going to sew completely around the chicken. I'm going to sew it off camera, and when I sew it, I'm going to sew twice around just to give it a little personality. I'll show you here in just a second. Here it is. You can see I went around it twice. You don't have to do that. I just did it for something a little bit fun. If you did a zigzag stitch around would be cute. You could even sew around the heart here if you want. It would maybe show on the back. So if you want to sew around the heart, you might want to do that before you put your 2 main pieces together. But you could see, like, if you added a heart on the other side as your wing, and it would be double-sided, would look super cute. Because as you can see here, I am now kind of just gluing my batting together to hold it in place, and then I'm placing each side of that fabric of that beak on each side of our chicken. See how it lays over the main fabric of the chicken on the front and the back. All right, and I'm going to glue my batting into place on my crown here, leaving that space at the bottom. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew my beak on first, and I laid that right at the tip-top edge of that chicken. So it lays right up at that top edge. And I'm going to go around it twice on this too, so it matches why I went around twice on the chicken. Okay, now here's our crown. You see I've got it pinned. You can see it over the back of the chicken and over the front of that fabric of that chicken. And I'm just going to sew all the way around it. And again, I'm going to sew twice all the way around so that it matches the twice I've been sewing around in every other place. Okay. Now off camera, I did go ahead and I sewed around the outer perimeter of that heart area. If that's something you want to do, whether you want this chicken single-sided or double-sided with the wing on each side, you might want to do that first before you put your chicken together. Otherwise, you're going to see that on the back side. You're going to see that outline of the heart, you know, by sewing it. But it doesn't bother me. I'm okay with it. I love how this chicken turned out. I think it's going to be so cute in a set of however many chickens that you need. I love it. What do you think? Let's move on to our last project, number 4. This project comes in 5 pieces. You're going to take the first 4 pieces, obviously cut them out and tape them together at the dash line. Now on page 5 is the tail piece, okay? And I left it separate because 1, I couldn't fit it on 4 pages, but 2, in case you wanted to make it a little bit different. So I've got a tail, a nose, and like a little fin here. Okay, so the tail piece, if you want to make it part of your main fish in one complete color, you're going to cut it out and tape it together at that dash line right there. Okay, so I did it twice. I cut that tail piece, I added it as part of the main pattern, and then I cut a separate tail piece out in a different color, and it's going to look different here when I show you. It's going to be more easier to see what I'm saying. So I took this quilted material, again, you can get it at Joann's, and it's a little bit bigger than the actual pattern. You can see I cut it all in one color. You may want just all one color fish. Now this secondary piece, all this fabric I got at Walmart, this is the actual pattern size here. Okay, so let me show you something. Here's my pattern. I cut it out. So this is my actual pattern size. All right, and then what I did is I laid that pattern onto the quilted material, and I cut that quilted material out about a 1/2 inch bigger all the way around. So I, in essence, have like a shadow piece, an outline. And then I cut my main body and my tail as 2 separate pieces. Okay, and then I've got my nose area as a separate piece that matches the tail, and then my little fin, I cut it out of a pair of recycled jeans. So since my outline of my fish is already quilted, I'm only going to do cut batting or heat and press for my main fish and my tail piece here. Now on the tail piece, I'm going to cut about a 1/2 inch off that straight edge, just like we did in the chicken, so that the batting, when it gets all put together, this piece with the other piece in front of it lays level. And then I cut a piece of batting for the nose area, and then a piece of batting for the fin. And again, I'm going to cut that a little bit short so it lays nice and level, and I can layer everything underneath. And then I'm going to do a couple of buttons for the eyes. And then I'm going to go ahead, just sew my 2 pieces of fabric, top layers of fabric, onto my top layer of my outline of fabric. Is that understandable? So here's what it looks like with a little bit of Bella's bum in the way. And then off camera, I'm going to go ahead and sew my fin on. So those of you gluers, you're going to glue your fabrics, all your fabrics together, however you chose to layer your fish up, and just glue everything onto your top layer of your main fish, your fin, your nose piece, your tail, however you want to do it. All right, so my fin is sewn on, and I'm now going ahead right here on camera to show you that a little bit, and I'm sewing my nose piece on. Since I sewed my tail around it twice, outlined it, I decided to go ahead and outline all my other pieces twice so it looks all matchy-matchy. You can see here I've got double layers sewing around it. Now I'm just going to go ahead and sew my eyes on it, and I'm sewing them on a little bit googly because I think it's cute. I'm just marking here where I want to put them with the Sharpie marker, and I'm using some really thin twine here, and that's what I'm sewing my buttons on with. Okay, I love how this turned out. I think it's just farmhouse country cute, and I love kind of those blues and grays together. Again, I got this fabric all at Walmart except for the jeans material. It's just some jeans I bought at a thrift store. I've been using recycling to make some purses and stuff like that. And then again, the quilted material is from Joann's. Right, I'm gonna knot that last of that buttons off there. And then we're just going to put our two fishes together now. So those of you that are gluers, now you can glue your two main fishy pieces together. I'm going to go ahead and sew around the edge. I've got about a little 1/2-inch border there, and I'm going to just sew along that entire edge there. As I sew around it to give me more room, as you can see, my left hand is kind of pulling up that other fabric that we already sewed on, just to give you a little bit more room there to get that fabric right around that border, because a 1/2 inch really isn't a whole lot. It might even be a 1/4 inch. I don't know, but I said a 1/2 inch. It's however big you want to make that outline. I think this fish turned out so super cute. I love the grays and the blues. It really gives it kind of a farmhouse look to it. I just love how it turned out. What do you think? So I hope you enjoyed these whimsical and fun placemats. They're easy to do. I love it. I can't decide though. I know like the fish doesn't quite belong, but it looks fun to have like an eclectic set of placemats like this. So you could, you know, maybe do 2 chicken and 2 flower together, or, you know, 2 flower, 2 watermelon together, or just do 1 of each like this. Or of course you could have all 4 or however many you need of one design. The options are completely endless. I love how farmhouse style and rustic they all turned out. I don't know which one's my favorite. I kind of might be a little partial to the chicken, and then the fish comes next, although I don't like have fish decor, but I like how that turned out too. I love like. I was going to say love and like in the same sentence. Anyway, leave me a comment down below. Let me know which was your favorite and which you would make a set of placemats out of. Please give this video a thumbs up. It helps my channel to grow. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another video from me. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Fear. It's an unpleasant human emotion that works like instinct when legitimately faced with dread, terror, or alarm over a situation in your life. It's a word that causes an emotional breakdown when you don't know how to overcome it, how to fight it, or how to get past it. There's a quote about the word fear. It's an acronym with 2 options. The first one is forget everything and run. The second one, face everything and rise. In the Bible, the book of Matthew, chapter 19 and verse 26, it states, with God, all things are possible. So choosing to face your obstacle and rise seems to be the obvious solution. You don't need to face any fear alone. Stand on the promises of God, keep His word in your mind, stand tall with His armor, and fight the fight. Allow your spirit to take hold and trust in the solution that God has for you to overthrow and defeat the enemy. Your complete faith in God will help you to be victorious in the presence of fear. To battle fear, you must acknowledge it and allow the power of God to show you exactly how to stand up, Face that fear and bind the enemy. Don't allow any lack of faith to rise up by not believing in God's power, His love, or His willingness to act on your behalf. When your faith is weak, fear becomes the controlling factor rather than your faith, and the enemy gets his foothold to drag you down into his world of despair and destruction. The good news is this: by defeating death and rising again, Jesus now holds the keys to death and Hades. He has the control over death and hell, and if I may offer my opinion here, fear can often feel like an emotional hell, but fear not, because Jesus has complete control and power to set you free. Do not allow the spirit of fear to get a foothold in your mind and cause a downward spiral into that miry pit. God will always provide a rope to pull you out, but you have to allow your mind to believe and trust in His ways. In the book of Psalms, chapter 34 and verse 19, it states, "A righteous man may have trouble, but the Lord delivers him from all." How God delivers you in a time of fear is within His will, and it may not be the exact way you want it to come out, but know this: God will deliver you. His word just stated it. It's His promise written on a page that has lasted thousands of years and has never and will never be disproved. Just allow yourself to trust God. Trust His ways, trust His knowledge, trust His leading, and He will show you a way out. In the book of Matthew, chapter 19 and verse 6, it states, "What therefore God has joined together, let no one separate." This simply means when God has put something together, when He has set something in motion, no one, or dare I say, no enemy, has any business changing it or breaking it apart. Let this give you strength. You know God's voice. Lean on it. Lean on Him. Live by your faith, not by your sight. God knows what's up ahead. Let Him guide you to that promised land. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.